Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtadar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about the statement issued by India's External Affairs Minister in the Parliament, and it is an important statement because it articulates India's position vis-a-vis the conflict in the Middle East, and that is an important aspect of the whole show. And I will also in during this show I will also try and compare the statements made by the Indian foreign minister with that made by the Chinese foreign minister Wang Yi and the statements made by the Russian foreign minister Steve Lavrov. But to begin with, let's look at what Jaishankar said. Now, this is coming in the parliament. First of all, there are lots of problems with the statement because he just came and read the statement and did not actually do anything in terms of taking any questions from the opposition. So the opposition and the parliament has become a kind of a useless place in India. India's democracy does not seem to have parliamentary debates anymore. So what is the point of having a parliament if you're not having a discussion? He could have simply put this on his website. It is called the Suomoto statement, and it is there. You can actually go and look at it. I have some screenshots from the statement that I plan to show to you today. So the question really is, what is the point of having a parliament if there are no parliament? What has happened? All right, I'm back. I'm sorry about that. I accidentally took off the connection to camera. So what's the point of having a parliament if the prime minister will not take questions? Like in the British Parliament, for example, there is a question hour where people ask questions, and the prime minister will explain his policy and his rationale. The prime minister Modi of India just behaves as if he's a dictator. He never takes questions. He never answers. He never holds press conference at home. And so some of his minions are left to explain the rationale of the policy. It is quite possible that he's either incapable of controlling his emotions while facing questions, or he's incapable of actually justifying the policies that he makes and articulate the reasons behind it. Yes, it is easy to give a speech if in front of you have a written teleprompter and all you're doing is reading from the teleprompter. But to be able to answer questions on the spot, you need to have a certain awareness of the foreign policy and the rationale behind the policy, and etc. So that tradition seems to have died in the Indian Parliament. But nevertheless, Dr. Jaishankar from time to time reads out statements trying to explain foreign policy. There were many questions that have still been left unanswered. For a country that seeks to be, calls itself the mother of democracy, for a country that wants to teach rule of law and good governance to the rest of the world, for a country that aspires to become an important member of global governance. India wants a permanent seat at the UN Security Council, etc. Given all of these India's aspirations to become the voice of the global South, to become part of the governance of the global order, India's statement on this important war, which is probably going to have global implications, especially from an economic perspective, is absolutely inadequate. Okay, so go and read the whole statement. I'm not going to read the whole statement. I'm going to point out. So first of all, this is the most important part of the statement of India, where India essentially, Dr. Jaishankar essentially explained what India's national interests really are. He said India is in favor of peace and urges a return to dialogue and diplomacy. That's what India says about everything else. So that's no big deal. Everybody says that. This is a boilerplate statement. You cut and paste it from other statements. Then it says that the well-being and security of the Indian community in the region is overriding priority. We will continue to work with the governments of the region towards that end. I don't know what that means. That means phone calls from Prime Minister Modi to heads of states of the Gulf countries and to the Israelis. There was no phone call made by the Prime Minister to anybody in Iran. And there was no phone call with Donald Trump either, but he did speak with Prime Minister of Israel, and apparently Dr. Jaishankar himself has been dealing with low-level diplomats of the United States, like Christopher Landau, who was visiting India for the Raisina dialogue. And then it says our national interests, including energy security and trade flows, will always be paramount. So these are the three he articulates India's interests. So if you basically look at it, it's 2 and 3, which are is worried about the Indian community, and rightly so. There are 10 million Indians working in the Gulf. Many of them want to get back, especially from Iran, and 67,000 of Indians from the Gulf have been by the Indian government help to get back. Many are actually stranded in many parts of the Gulf who are in transit, for example, or who were on vacation in Dubai who are planning to come back to India are now struck because most of the air traffic has been grounded as a result of Iran's attacks on Dubai airport and other countries in the region. So does this look to you like a statement of a global leader, a rising power? Not really. So let me show you some other aspects of the statement so you'll get a sense. So this is the opening comment. It is called a suo motu statement by External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, Lok Sabha, on the situation in West Asia. So he's a member of Rajya Sabha. The statement was issued to Lok Sabha today. He says it has, so this is the point I highlighted. So he says, I rise to apprise the August House of recent developments in the West Asia that are a cause of deep concern to all of us. As honorable members are aware, this round of conflict started on 28th February 2026. Well, like the conflict is started, look at the language. It has witnessed not only fighting between Israel and the United States on one side and Iran on the other, but also attacks on a number of Gulf states. So first of all, let me make it out. It's not that the fighting started. It is Israel and the United States in the midst of a negotiation. While the US is in the process of negotiating with Iran, they surprise attacked it. In fact, Israelis call it a preemptive strike. So the United States essentially created a kind of, I'm sorry to say that, but my country this is the second time that the US has done this to Iran, that while there is a dialogue going on, they have attacked Iran. So they did this again. So it is against general diplomatic protocol. It's in bad taste. It shows that the US is not very reliable. How does India present it? As if these two suddenly started fighting. No, it's not like that. Iran was attacked by two countries, and without UN Security Council approval, this is an illegal war by international law. India loves to talk about international law, international norms, etc., but there is no mention of international law, etc., because they know that Modi went to Tel Aviv and hugged a war criminal. Now, India is in a very tight embrace with a war criminal. So clearly, India is not ever going to talk about international law anymore, because they understand that they are violating international law. And then this is another part of the second paragraph of the statement. At the very outset, government had issued a statement on 28th February expressing its deep concern, the same repetition that we continue to believe that dialogue and diplomacy should be pursued, etc., etc. So why aren't you condemning the violence? Why aren't you condemning the incessant attacks? Why is there no condemnation on the attack on the school, on civilian targets where children were killed? 170, 180 children were killed in a women's school by the US. No such it's as if India doesn't have internet connection so that they can go and read Google News. So what is happening? Completely bland. India these days is afraid to say a single statement that will upset Donald Trump or Israel. India has become a vassal state, and I'll show you the contrast. So this is the concern that they have. India has $200 billion of trade with the Gulf, has about 1 crore Indian citizens who work there, and that is the concern that India is trying to show. So, from my point of view, this is such a disingenuous, this is a fake and false and dishonest statement, and I'll tell you why this is a dishonest statement. According to this statement to the parliament, the Indian Minister of External Affairs is telling his colleagues in the parliament that we are being neutral in this issue. But that is not true. On 25th of February, just 3 days before the war started, the Prime Minister of India went all the way to Israel. And let me tell you, when I did the analysis of Modi's speech in Israel, you can see that I also wrote an article in the Diplomat about Modi's speech. I pointed out in that analysis, which I did on the night of 25th, I predicted that the US would be attacking Iran on Saturday, which is the 28th. So if I could know that, don't you think India, with all its fancy intelligence agencies, etc., its deep connections with Israelis and American diplomats, not know that the US was going to attack? Why didn't India talk about diplomacy and peace there? Not a single mention of Iran in that entire speech by Modi. Of course, he also did not mention the 50,000 plus women and children who died. Killing innocent people, murdering innocent people, he said, is unacceptable, but only for the Israeli victims who died on October 7th. But he had nothing, absolutely nothing to say about the innocent women and children who died in Gaza. That's when I also started thinking that, oh my God, Modi is indeed non-biological. This man lacks humanity. So anyway, no mention of that speech at all. There's no connection at all. As if that speech is not there at all. It has nothing to do with this conflict. I mean, you have to be a mentally retarded, absolute idiot not to make to connect the two, that India went there and said, we stand with Israel. So how does Modi's statement, we stand with Israel, and this statement, which appear to look as if India is being neutral, where is the so-called strategic autonomy of India, and where is all of the multi-alignment? Where is the alignment with Iran here? In this statement, they cannot even acknowledge the fact that it was Israel and the United States who attacked Iran. It's as if the war broke up spontaneously. And of course, India has no intelligence as to how that happened. That is, to me, quite bizarre. And that's why he did not take any questions or comments. And so there was immediately, the parliament was shut down and there was no discussions, because he doesn't know how to answer the question. If the opposition leaders would stand up and say, yes, but how do you square Modi's speech saying that we stand with Israel? Do you think he would be able to say, yeah, but we also stand with Iran? No. Iran is a member of BRICS along with India. Iran is a member of the SCO along with India. India does not stand up for its allies and partners. It is so dead scared of Donald Trump. India has become a vassal state of Israel and the US, so desperate that it will not utter a single word that could upset Israel or the United States. Let me show you, in contrast, how China addressed the same issue. These are quotes from Wang Yi's statement and speech, and also from the Chinese Ministry of External Affairs. This is a war that should never have happened. What the United States and Israel are doing by attacking Iran during negotiations is unacceptable. Can you imagine India having the guts to make a statement like this? No way. This whole talk of the world is a multipolar world, and there are many powers, including India is one of the powers. My foot. There is no such thing. India does not stand in the same league as China. I dare India to make a statement like that and see what Trump says then. He said, I can end Modi's career by making one statement. No response from India to that. What the United States and Israel are doing by attacking Iran during negotiations is unacceptable. That is a statement of a major power in the world. The attacks violate international law and basic norms of international relations. It's China that is talking about international norms and international relations and international law. I'm sure Jaishankar has never heard of these words. At least his statement. Remember this famous statement that Modi was trying to become famous about, that this is not an era of war? Why didn't he use that statement here? Never uses it in the context of Israel. Israel has attacked 7, 8 countries in the past or 2 years. Not once has Modi told Netanyahu this is not an era of war. Force cannot truly solve problems. China supports Iran in defending its sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity. See, this is very specific. This is taking a stand. India says we respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all countries. Of course, India respects the sovereignty of Sri Lanka and Maldives and Bhutan. All countries in the world, there are 206 of them. But in the context of this conflict, it does not say anything. Not even the so-called defense partner. India has a defense agreement with United Arab Emirates. India has made no statement about UAE either. China calls for an immediate cessation of hostilities and return to dialogue and negotiations. This is a statement that every country is making. India also made a similar comment. Let me show you some of the comments that came from Wang Yi himself. The United States and Israel have escalated tensions in the Middle East by launching attacks on Iran. See, this is what I meant. A country with self-respect, it is not a vassal of Israel or a vassal of the US. It can call a spade a spade. Such military actions violate the purposes and principles of the UN Charter, which is true. India wants to defend the UN Charter and become a full member of the UN, a permanent member of the UN Security Council, and does not even respect the UN Charter when its friend, the war criminal Netanyahu, breaks that UN Charter, when Donald Trump breaks the UN Charter. You think there are not IFS officers there who have told Jaishankar this? He chose not to mention this. China strongly opposes the use of force and calls on all parties, especially those with influence, to stop the fighting immediately. Dialogue and negotiations remain the only viable, the sovereignty, etc. So it's the same comments made by the Ministry of External Affairs. Let me show you what another power that India likes to compare itself with, like the Russians. This is Steve Lavrov. This is how he starts. Steve Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, says the strikes against Iran are a gross violation of international law. Straight away, no mincing, no dodging, no hiding, no this also, that also, nothing like that. This is an unprovoked act of aggression that threatens regional and global stability. The use of force against a sovereign state without authorization of the UN Security Council is unacceptable. Well, wonder what happened that when Russia attacked Ukraine. But anyway, the United States and Israel are pushing the Middle East towards a dangerous escalation. So these people, these are real powers in the world who stand up. There are two issues on which Dr. Jaishankar basically probably did not want to answer any questions. One was Modi's speech that with complete conviction, we stand with Israel, the war criminal Netanyahu. I'm here to embrace him. That speech. They don't want to answer questions with regards to that. And they also do not want to answer questions about how they handled the Iranian ship, which was sunk by a US submarine. There are a lot of serious questions about what happened, really. Iris Dina, it is called. So India did, Dr. Jaishankar's statement does talk about another Iranian ship called Iris Levan, and nothing else. He basically says 3 Iranian ships are granted permission to dock in Indian harbors, and Iris Levan is still there in Cochin. But there is no, he did not say anything about Iris Dina, what the United States did. Was the ship armed? Was the ship unarmed? Why was it still in the Indian waters? Why was it not taking sanctuary somewhere if it was unarmed, if it was only a ceremonial ship, etc.? I mean, partly, I think the sinking of Iris Dina is not India's responsibility or problem. That is Iranians' incompetence. The The war started on April 20th. The ship was sunk much later. Oh, sorry, on February 28th, the ship was sunk several days after that. So either they should have just parked themselves in a safe harbor, or heading back towards the war zone. That tells you that that's the difference between having active intelligence. US has intelligence of, I suppose, every little ship. I think every car that the Iranian regime owns, the US probably has intel on it. And so, but India's response was quite weird: silence. The civilians that are being killed, Ali Khamenei, who was killed, India did not issue any statement about it till 5 days passed. Then they sent Misri to the embassy to express their condolences. So these are some of the diplomatic, shall we say, choices that India is making under Modi, which makes India look like a vassal state of the US and Israel. There is no, and it does not look as a country that is exercising strategic autonomy in any way. It does not look like a country which is a rising power. It looks like a country from, it is a third world country. There's no difference in the positions that India is taking, or Sri Lanka is taking, or Nepal is taking, or Ghana, and others. In fact, countries like South Africa and others have been far more vocal in their criticism of the United States than India itself. And so to me, it was very disappointing, this whole statement by Dr. Jaishankar. He was supposed to be this guy who made this fabulous statements where either Europe's problems or Europe has to change the way it thinks that Europe's problem are the world's problems, but the world's problems are not Europe's problem. What happened to that, Jaishankar? What happened to that, Jaishankar? Donald Trump has tamed India and made India look like a vassal state. In fact, the memes on social media are so humiliating, because I'm a fan of cricket and I watched the Cricket World Cup final on my laptop, and I made comments about it. The algorithms of social media have picked it up, and I'm getting all these memes about cricket match. And so one of the most popular memes is Donald Trump gives permission to India to celebrate the victory over New Zealand. Donald Trump gives permission to India to play New Zealand in the final. They're making mockery of the fact that Donald Trump has given permission to India to buy Russian oil for 1 month from starting March 5th. And then it'll have to stop. And Donald Trump wants India to do that so that the price of oil goes down and the pressure on oil supplies from the Gulf is reduced, which Donald Trump himself did it today by getting together with G7 countries and announcing that they are all going to release together their strategic reserves of oil. And so they are increasing the supply of oil in the market. And therefore, when the oil prices went up to $119 per barrel, they again came down to 95. And this happened because of basically G7 announcing that they are going to release increase the supply of oil in the market by releasing their strategic reserves. But nevertheless, we seem to have entered a dark age of Indian diplomacy, where India, with each passing day, will appear to be either a vassal of Israel or a vassal of the United States. It's very sad to see that, especially when you look at the so-called, remember when Donald Trump imposed tariffs on India the first time in August last year. Modi went to Moscow, and all these photographs with Modi and Putin and Xi Jinping. Do you remember that photograph when Modi went to China suddenly for the SCO summit after 3 years, and he was there, and there was all this talk in India. What a masterstroke of diplomacy! India responds to Donald Trump. India hits back. Now we will create RIC, Russia, India, China mechanism, and this is an answer. The balance of power has shifted away. America is declining. America is finished. Now that Modi has gone and taken a photograph with Putin and with Xi Jinping. Putin was on the phone today with Donald Trump, talking about Iran. That's how a real global leader talks. I guarantee you, Modi doesn't have the guts to call Donald Trump and say, "What are you doing in Iran? You're destabilizing the global economy. You're going to cause inflation in many countries. You could cause recession in many countries. The global economy could go into recession. If the oil price goes back up to 100, and stays there for 6 months, it's over for the global economy, you know. And then, of course, the only thing that is face saving for Indians is, is that the brain dead responses from the mainstream media and the blind followers of Modi. No matter what he does, they are unable to comprehend the seriousness of it, and so they are like blind supporters of that because of his Hindutva ideology. Uh, and so those are the observations and those are the comments that I have to make about this statement. And so please, if you have not already subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel, like this video, press the bell icon, and I'll share this video with your socio-political network. And for the next 5 minutes, if there are any questions or any interesting comments, I'll be happy to answer them. Do you have any guts? Of course, I'm standing here and saying Donald Trump is a maniac. I have more guts than Modi. I'm sitting in the United States here. I'm just 101 miles away from White House. Donald Trump is an immoral character who's protecting pedophiles at home, and he's supporting a genocidal country like Israel overseas. Donald Trump is in violation of international law. This war that he has conducted under pressure from Israel is Israel first, not America first. This war is illegal according to international law, and it is also illegal according to the US Constitution because this war has not received any congressional approval. Yes, I can say this from the United States, Captain Vivek. But Modi can't say this, and neither can Dr. Jaishankar. All right, so there aren't any other comments, interesting observations. Yes, Prakash Mishra has become a new member. Welcome to Conversations, Prakash. I wish you had joined yesterday because we had a great conference on Zoom for 2 hours with members of Conversations. Soon we will have another, probably in the first or second week of April. Maybe I'll try to do it in the second week of April. It will be interesting because it will be a very interesting location from where I will be doing this. Last time I did a conference was from Hong Kong, and I was able to show pictures and videos of Hong Kong. Or actually, from my window, I was able to show Hong Kong to some people who had not been to Hong Kong. So anyway, welcome to Conversations. Thank you for supporting the channel by becoming a member. Any other comments? Anyway, so there are not just people out there defending Modi's cowardice. So, all right. Thank you for watching. Take care. There are going to be 2 very important shows that will be aired tomorrow. And please watch that. I'm interviewing 2 very prominent Indian economists, hopefully in the next half an hour. They are usually very busy, so it's difficult to get both of them at the same time. But I will talk to you soon. But stay tuned. And if you are already a subscriber, try to also press the bell icon so that you get notifications. During the course of this war, I'm trying to do at least 1 English and 1 Urdu Hindi review of the state of the war. This war is very important. Even if you don't care about what's going on in world politics, it will come back to bite you, especially to India, for Indians and Chinese and Japanese and South Koreans who's heavily dependent on the Gulf oil. India is 80 to 85% of India's energy needs are fulfilled by the Gulf. China is about 60%, and Japan is 90%. So what happens in the Gulf can impact your economic future for sure. Anyway, take care. Bye.